At first, it didn't look like much, an off-white flare of light visible on the bottom left part of your screen here. But as it made its way across the sky, seemingly morphing into something bigger that fired out its own flare of light, you can understand why onlookers started to have questions. And in places like Croatia, where it appeared like a brilliant bulbous backward S with an incomplete ring around it, you can understand why those questions were serious ones. What was so brightly visible on Monday night probably wasn't a strange celestial symbol of some sort. Meteorologists say it was likely caused by a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket that had launched that day in Florida. They think it was the rocket's frozen exhaust plume spinning and reflecting sunlight as it moved through the atmosphere. The words probably, likely, and think might trouble some of the more suspicious minds out there, but no one was hurt, and skyward scenes like these have followed other rocket launches before. Hi, I'm Carl Azus. Welcome to the world from A to Z. In Washington, D.C., there have been vastly different responses to what the Trump administration says was a mistake. Here's what happened. Earlier this month, the U.S. launched new airstrikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen. We discussed that on March 17th. There's controversy over what happened shortly before the attack, as members of the Trump administration were discussing it on a group chat. Who was on the chat? The U.S. Vice President, the Secretary of State, the National Intelligence Director, the Defense Secretary, and other significant government officials. There were 18 people in the group. Somehow, a journalist was added to it. He's the editor-in-chief of an American magazine called The Atlantic. Why is that significant? Because reporters outside the U.S. government aren't supposed to be included on military plans within it. The app where the discussions took place is Signal. Members of both the Trump and Biden administrations have used it. It's more secure than the group chats you and I are on, but it's not a classified platform. Experts say it might be possible for foreign hackers to get into it.
You would think the government would have some kind of proprietary app that they would use instead.
President Donald Trump and several members of his administration acknowledge a mistake was made in including the journalist. And National Security Advisor Mike Waltz says it's his fault, that he'd intended to add someone to the messaging platform, but not the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. He says he doesn't know yet how that happened. So now what? Critics of the leak say classified information was shared and that the law was broken. Some prominent Democrats have called for Waltz to be fired. President Trump says he won't be, and that the information shared on Signal wasn't classified. And that's really where the crux of the controversy is. The Trump administration has said repeatedly that no classified information or war plans were discussed, while The Atlantic says the exact timing of the attacks and the specific weapons used were all in the chat. Some Democrats and critics say that info, in the wrong hands, could have led to the deaths of U.S. troops involved in the strike, and that it was or should have been classified. The U.S. Defense Secretary says because no names, specific targets, routes, or locations were on the chat, the info was not top secret. Amid all that back and forth, U.S. intelligence officials at a congressional hearing said they're planning an in-depth review to determine how the reporter got on the chat.
A world of knowledge. Which of these news events occurred almost exactly 1 year ago? Baltimore bridge collapse, total solar eclipse, Hurricane Helene landfall, Maui, Hawaii wildfires. It was on March 26, 2024, that a container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge, causing the Baltimore Bridge to collapse.
Early March 26, 2024, the container ship Dolly lost power and struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. It collapsed, killing 6 construction workers. Wednesday, the somber anniversary.
We came to pay homage to the ones who paid the ultimate price of their lives on that fateful day.
The National Transportation Safety Board is working on its final report, and investigators recently said the Maryland Transportation Authority never evaluated the bridge's risk for collision or collapse. But, based on guidance from the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, the bridge was above their acceptable level of risk.
The bridge was almost 30 times greater than the risk threshold, 30 times greater.
The agency also identified 68 other U.S. Bridges spanning waterways frequented by cargo ships that, like the Key Bridge, were built before 1991 and do not have a current vulnerability assessment. Johns Hopkins Associate Professor Michael Shields says the Huey...
I'm sorry, guys. I dropped my controller on accident. I'm sorry.
P. Long Bridge outside New Orleans and the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge are among the most vulnerable.
This type of risk is real, and if we don't do something about it, if we don't take protective measures, that this type of thing will happen again.
I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
On this date in world history. On March 27th, 1977, foggy conditions and miscommunications contributed to the world's deadliest aviation accident. It happened on the Spanish Canary island of Tenerife. Two 747 passenger jets collided while one was taking off and the other was taxiing. 583 lives were lost, and the tragedy led to significant changes in airline safety measures. This was the date of the strongest earthquake in U.S. history. That occurred on March 27th, 1964. It was a 9.2 magnitude tremor that hit just southeast of Anchorage, Alaska, and caused a tsunami. More than 130 people were killed. Damage was estimated at hundreds of millions of dollars, and the quake was detected in 47 U.S. states. And on this date in 1915, a woman named Mary Mallon, also known as Typhoid Mary, was captured and confined to an island in New York City. The Irish-born cook was blamed for widely spreading the infectious and sometimes deadly disease typhoid, but without actually suffering from it herself. After she continued to work as a cook in defiance of health department orders, Mary was isolated for the rest of her life.
Spring has finally sprung, and if you're thinking of cleaning out your home, it may also help your health.
When we engage in some sort of spring cleaning, it helps us kind of declutter not only our environment, but it can also help us declutter our minds.
Psychologist Adam Borland with Cleveland Clinic says spring cleaning can give our brains a boost, helping us to manage stress, elevate our mood, and provide a sense of accomplishment, which can all go a long way to helping mental health.
Spring cleaning can help us improve our focus. It can help with energy in terms of finding small activities in order to engage with and then seeing those through to completion.
But Borland says a key to decluttering your home and mind is not tackling too much at one time. He says to set small goals and get the easiest item on your list done first. If procrastination is stopping you, take advantage of good days when you have more energy. Once you start, it'll be easier to get through it. And make it a team effort. Enlisting others can help get the job done. Finally, focus on the happiness a cleaner home will bring.
It's really an opportunity to kind of get out of that hibernation mode. Cleaning up the house can feel like a sense of rejuvenation and kind of restarting, which can be a wonderful feeling, especially after the long months of winter.
Naperville is a suburb of Chicago, Illinois, sandwiched between Sandwich and Lake Michigan, and it's there that Miss O'Neill's class is watching from Hill Middle School. Hello to the Trailblazers in the Prairie State. Moving southwest to the Sooner State of Oklahoma, we arrive in Union City, where the Tigers are watching in Mrs. Lowridge's class. Big hello to Union City Public School. And in the Golden State of California, we're happy to see Mr. Gimlin's or Jimlin's and Mr. Montesino's classes are online. Occupational training program is awesome like Fridays.
What in the world?
Finally today, a breathtaking moment in a good way for a free diver in the Galapagos Islands. Her partner, who's a videographer, told her he was just going to have a friend take some pictures of them, but after a couple of those, he knelt down and proposed. The athlete, named Nushi Horvath, said yes, and she also said for a few moments she forgot she needed air. But there were safety measures in place, and they both surfaced just fine. As a freediver, she doesn't wear scuba gear while underwater, but she now can wear a ring. It's a breath of fresh air. It's a love that runs deep. It's something they can share for oxy-generations to see. Restless waves may break and sands may shift. Tides will ebb and flow and currents will pull and drift. But lifted up will be the couple whose love is seafaring, shored up a ship-shaped seaworthy pairing. I'm Captain Carl Azus, sailing the world from A to Z, and it means the world to have you aboard.